When I was little, I took great pride in my family. My parents would take me to the park and I would wiggle my eyebrows mockingly at other kids as I walked with my loving mom and dad, and their parents fought over stupid things, like forgetting the juice boxes or bringing the wrong blanket to sit on. Before I continue my story, remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this crazy story. It helps us out a bunch. My parents and I were the perfect family. Every night we had fantastic dinners that my parents cooked together. Then we would play music and dance around as we cleaned up. My parents loved being involved in my school and extracurricular activities. They drove me and my team to soccer practice every Saturday and cheered the loudest when I scored. My birthday parties were legendary because my parents always went all out to throw me really cool themed parties. I thought my life was absolutely perfect in every single way. Little did I know there were things brewing under the surface that I couldn't see. When I was 15, I woke up in the middle of the night to a door slamming shut. Then I heard it creak open again and I heard crying. I froze. I had never heard anything like it. I ran out of my room and saw that my dad was crying at the bathroom door, whispering something desperately. My mom then came out of the bathroom, no expression on her face, until her eyes landed on me. She got teary-eyed, then she grabbed 2 suitcases and set them by the door. She swung our front door open, then turned to me, wiped my tears of confusion and fear, and kissed my forehead. She then grabbed her suitcases and threw them in the trunk of a car that was waiting for her by the street. I don't remember the rest of that night. I just remember how hard life was after that. My dad and I had to come up with a whole new routine for everyday things because we couldn't bear to do anything that reminded us of her. My dad completely let himself go. He stopped showering as often and would wear the same clothes for days. I stopped going to soccer. We ate microwavable meals for weeks until I decided to take up cooking. I couldn't stand the sadness. Now I was just angry. My mom had abandoned my dad and I out of nowhere. No explanation, no calls, nothing. How could I feel anything but anger at this point? I knew my dad and I would pick ourselves back up, and we did. We made a few changes, but soon enough, we were sort of on our feet again, getting used to life without the traitor. The last thing we needed at that moment was to see her again. She must have sensed this, because that's when she decided to come back into our lives. She showed up out of nowhere, as suddenly as she had abandoned us. You probably think she showed up to apologize, to come back to our family after she realized how much she needed us and our little life. But I regret to inform you that wasn't the case. She came home sporting an enormous diamond on her ring finger, one that I was sure my dad hadn't given her. The most surprising thing was on her arm. She was accompanied by an incredibly handsome young man. He looked like he was half her age, but definitely an adult. My mom made us sit down for lunch with her new husband. I'm not sure how she managed to do that. Maybe my dad and I were too stunned to say or do anything. He's a model, isn't that right, honey? My mom asked me while digging her nails into her new husband's bicep. She insisted that I called him my second dad, but I refused to even call him my stepdad. He's my mom's husband to me. I was happy when my mom and her male bimbo left, but then I saw how much their visit had affected my dad. He didn't eat for days, and he went back to his self-destructive habits of not taking care of himself. I urged him to eat and leave the house, but he wouldn't. Until one day, he woke up a new man. Suddenly, he was eating like a beast, and he signed up to the gym. He would go on runs at 6 in the morning before I went to school, and then he'd chug a green smoothie full of protein to get ready for his hours of working out. My dad was changing a lot. He looked great, and he had a lot of energy now. I was happy to see my dad taking such good care of himself. He even started taking interest in my skincare routine. I told him everything I knew, and he started using my products until he bought himself fancier, more expensive ones. It was cute seeing him do face masks and stuff, but that changed pretty quickly. Our pantry went from all name brand foods to off-brand foods. And then he started cutting down on our food completely. I knew he was spending hundreds on beauty products a week. I was surviving, though. It wasn't too bad. But if you think it got worse, you're absolutely right. My dad discovered a whole internet culture of beauty bloggers and fitness people. They all promoted weekend getaways and all sorts of trips with the goal of making you more buff in a few days or making you look half your age through extensive spa procedures. These things obviously cost a fortune, but my dad had that money, right? Well, he did if he stopped buying food and I dropped out of all my extracurriculars. My dad would disappear for a week, be home for a few days, and then disappear again. Sometimes he changed so much that it took me a second to recognize him. Any wrinkles that he had were gone, and any gray hairs had transferred over to me because I had to go to school, mow lawns, walk dogs, and tutor younger kids to make money to buy food now. I felt like my dad was just my landlord sometimes. I completely forgot that other people also saw the changes in my dad. Do you want to know how I realized it? Suddenly, 16-year-old boys weren't enough for my friends. They wanted to come over to my house all the time, despite the lack of food, just to stare at my dad. It was gross. I didn't even understand how they found him attractive, partially because he's my dad, but also because he looked messed up. He didn't even look like a real person anymore. He looked like a video game character. He took me shopping for clothes sometimes because he liked the attention he got. He flashed his pearly whites at the sales assistants who giggled and told him it was super sweet for him to go shopping with his little sister. You should see the look on their faces when I clarified that I'm actually his daughter. My dad was always flattered by the attention. He saw it as proof that his lifestyle changes were working, but he never thought anything too serious about it. I was afraid that he saw it more as motivation than as a sign to stop and stay the way he was at that moment. I didn't know he was about to go to the absolute extreme of his obsession with looking less than half his age. I had no idea it could even be so extreme. One time, he woke me up in the middle of the night. This naturally petrified me because the last time I was woken up harshly in the middle of the night was when my mother abandoned us. My dad looked incredibly excited and agitated. He rushed me and told me to get dressed. When I did, he threw a suitcase into my room and told me to pack my stuff while he packed his. I had no idea what was happening, so I threw everything I could see into the suitcase. I had clothes for warm weather and cold weather, books of all sorts, and some cash I had stashed away from my dad so he didn't buy moisturizer with diamonds in it or something. I was still half asleep when my dad packed up suitcases like it was nothing and threw them in the back of the car. What woke me up was the speed. I was trying to eat a sandwich I managed to make very quickly before we left, but I almost bit my tongue as my dad stepped on the gas and we swerved through the night as if in a police chase. I actually did look back a couple of times to make sure there were no red and blue flashing lights following us. We arrived at a parking lot made of dirt. There was a little building visible in the distance, but besides that, there was nothing. My dad was looking around as if he was hoping to see something. Then a tiny little plane came into view. My dad did a pretty cool handshake with the man piloting the plane, then urged me to climb in and sit down. The entire time I was on the plane, I was terrified that it would drop down from the sky at any moment. The turbulence almost made me throw up, and I almost made my dad throw up with all the questions I was asking him.
You're making my head spin, darling. Please, just sleep or something.
He murmured as he put in earplugs and slid a sleeping mask on. I looked out the cloudy window next to me and at the night sky. We had been flying for hours, so I was surprised that the sun hadn't risen wherever we were. We were at a little airport surrounded by trees. My dad grabbed our suitcases and jumped in a Jeep with a GPS system that was glitching. It was dark all around and the wind was so strong that I felt we were flying away. I spent most of the way with my head down or my eyes covered by my hands. My dad said we'd be fine, but I didn't believe him. After what felt like an eternity, we arrived at my dad's paradise. In the middle of a rainforest, there was a glass dome, and inside there were pristine little buildings. We stopped at the gate and my dad said some sort of code word. There were golden lamps glowing all around us, and people emerged from the stunning houses to wave. That's when I snapped back into reality. If you saw this, you would probably think that you were dreaming, which is exactly what I assumed until I realized I was very much awake and everything around me was either real or a hallucination. There was something off about the people around us. We hopped out of the Jeep and my dad took my hand, pulling me into one of the houses. Dozens of people walked in and out of our little house as we settled in. They left all sorts of gifts, but especially these small vials of a gooey blue substance. Dad, what's going on? Can you answer my questions, please? I demanded from my dad. He had been ignoring me to my face for hours, and I was sick of it.
This is our new home, sweetie.
He said, grabbing my face in both hands. He exhaled in relief and ran to the mountain of vials with the blue thing in them. He emptied one onto his hands and rubbed the weird, thick substance onto his face. The remaining liquid on his arms.
Here, we never have to age,
he exclaimed. He then ran out onto the street to meet the cheering people all around. I was freaking out. Why wasn't he telling me anything? It was like he expected me to figure everything out by myself. I was glad I didn't use my phone during the entire journey because I went online and looked at my location. That's when I realized that I couldn't. There was no signal here. What could I do? I had seen my dad unpack all his stuff, and he seemed to be settling in, but I had no plans of doing that. I wanted to go home then and there. I figured that I didn't need much to get back home. I had learned to drive at my friend's house a few weeks ago, so if I could just get to the Jeep, I could go back to the scary little airport. I walked outside and saw the people of this little city cheering for my dad, welcoming him to what they said was his new home. Maybe it was my dad's new home, but I sure had no plans of staying another minute. I reached to open the Jeep door, but felt a hand grab my arm tightly. "We've got a runner," said the woman, clutching my arm. 3 other people sprinted towards me and each grabbed one of my legs or arms. They held me above their heads and ran to the back of the city. My mouth gaped open when I saw the enormous tree they worship. It was glowing blue as it leaked tree sap. Some people were sitting by its roots, rubbing the sap all over their bodies. I understood. This tree kept their skin young, though to me, they kind of looked like aliens. I struggled, kicked, and screamed as my captors tied me to the tree, chanting, "Sacrifice, sacrifice." A huge, bulky man was approaching me slowly with a giant rock. This is it, I thought. This is my end. And all because my stupid dad has stupid issues he won't talk to a stupid therapist about. I braced myself for impact when I heard screaming coming closer. The Jeep was pushing people out of the way, and my dad jumped out with a knife. He slashed the ropes, tying me to the tree, and threw me over his shoulder. He set the car in reverse, and we sped backwards and through the closed gate of the city. We drove through the storm in the direction of the airport. "Dad, what the hell was that?" I screamed. My dad started apologizing to me.
I'm an idiot. I didn't ask you if you wanted to come here, or if you were okay with anything I've been doing lately.
My dad promised to never put his vanity before me again. We managed to get back home safely, and so far, I think he's kept his promise, but I get worried when I find little blue vials hidden around the house. I could hardly contain my excitement as I waited outside the school dates for my mom to pick me up. My friends were all excited for me, too.
I can't believe you're finally going to see your mom. I know she's only been away a year, but it seems like forever.
I know, right? I'm so happy. I've really missed her.
Yeah, I know you've spoken to her every day, but it's not the same as having your mom there, is it? I can't imagine how I'd feel if my mom had to go away for a year. Anyway, she's back now, and in a few minutes, you'll get to see her.
I looked down the road trying to see if I could see her car coming. My stomach had butterflies, and my heart was beating like mad. Come on, Mom, hurry up. Suddenly, this random woman walked up to me, put her arms around me, and gave me a big hug.
Hello, darling.
Who are you?
Marcia, what do you mean, who am I? I'm your mom.
My mouth fell open in shock. It was definitely my mom's voice. I would recognize that anywhere. But this woman looked nothing like my mom. I could hear my friends sniggering and whispering to each other.
God, she looks crazy. Have you seen how much plastic surgery she's had? I know, she looks so fake. Why would she do that to herself? She looks so weird.
My friends were right. My mom was unrecognizable. I was so embarrassed. I couldn't believe she would have had all that work done to herself. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't end up with a psycho mom like mine. I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So I pushed my mom into the car and jumped in beside her. I tried to block out the sounds of my friends and everyone else laughing, but it was impossible. As soon as we pulled away from the school gates, I started laying into my mom. What have you done to yourself?
What do you mean?
Are you serious? You've completely changed your appearance. I didn't even know you were my mom.
Oh, don't be so dramatic, Marcia. Sure, I've had a bit of work done, but I'm only trying to maintain my looks.
A bit of work? You've got to be joking. Have you looked in the mirror?
You're over-exaggerating now.
No, I'm not. All my friends could tell what you've done. Oh God, it's so embarrassing. I just don't understand why you would want to do it.
Because I want to look young. No one wants to look old and wrinkly, do they?
But you've gone too far. Sure, an odd facial here and there, some good face cream, that's normal. But what you've done is far from normal.
Well, I think I look good.
We drove the rest of the way home in complete silence. So much for the happy reunion I was looking forward to. As soon as we got home, I ran into the house, pushing past my dad on the way, and stormed up to my room.
Marcia, what's the matter? What's going on?
I tried to ignore my dad, but he wouldn't let it go.
Come on, Marcia. Come back down and talk about whatever it is that's bothering you.
I went back down the stairs and told my dad what I was angry about. It's her!
Who?
Mom?
Why? What's wrong with Mom? Have you two had a fight?
Just look at her! Don't tell me you haven't noticed what she's done to herself.
I think she looks great.
You're kidding me, aren't you? It's like she went abroad and came back a different person.
No, I'm serious. I don't think your mom has ever looked better.
I couldn't believe that my dad was happy with the way she looked. You're probably just happy because she's got big boobs now. After those final words, I stormed back up to my room, slamming the door behind me. I laid on my bed and started ranting to myself. I was so mad with my mom. I started shaking with anger. How am I going to face anyone at school? I'm going to be a laughingstock. Oh God, my life couldn't be any worse right now. The first day back at school was awful. Every time I walked into a room, everybody suddenly stopped talking and just stared at me. I knew they were whispering about my mom. Of course, my friends didn't say anything. They tried to reassure me, but I knew they were lying.
She doesn't look that bad, Marcia. You know, everyone will soon get used to it and find something else to gossip about.
But I knew the only way to get them to stop talking and laughing about my mom was to keep her out of sight. So from that moment on, I made sure never to let my friends see me with my mom. I could tell that she was a bit upset not to be spending time with me, but it was her own fault. I told her I didn't want her picking me up from school anymore.
But why not, Marcia? We have so much time to make up for.
I like walking home with my friends.
Oh, okay then. If you're sure.
I am. Whenever she asked me to go out for dinner with her or to the shops, I always came up with some excuse or another. Oh, sorry, I've got plans. Or, I have so much homework to catch up on. You and Dad just go. And my friends were right. After a while, people stopped talking about my mom and found other stuff to gossip about. My life went back to normal, and I tried to forget about what my mom had done to herself. But then, one night, things blew up again. We were sitting having dinner together at home when Mom started talking about doing some more surgery.
I'm thinking of getting a rib removed. It will make my waist smaller.
I shook my head when I heard what she said. You can't do that. That's crazy.
No, it isn't. All the celebrities get it done. And look how good they look.
You are insane. I was so angry I jumped up, knocking my chair to the floor, and at the same time spilling a glass of water all over the table. That's enough now. You're going too far. I'm not going to let you do this to yourself.
What do you mean you're not going to let me? I can do whatever I want.
You can't do this. It's the most stupid idea I've ever heard.
Marcia, I am having this surgery done whether you like it or not.
You make me so mad. I can't talk to you about this anymore. I stormed out of the room and upstairs to my bedroom. As I lay on my bed, I couldn't stop thinking about what my mom was planning to do. I have to find a way to get her to stop doing all these crazy things to herself. Suddenly, it was like a light bulb had gone off in my head. I knew what I had to do. I decided I would devise a plan to trick my mom into not doing any more crazy surgeries or injecting anything into herself. I started searching through the internet, and finally I found what I was looking for. It was an advert for a company that hired out actors for any role you wanted them to perform. I contacted them and organized for someone to play a fake doctor. Then I found an office space to hire for a day. Once it was all set up, I told my mom all about it. Mom, you know what? I owe you an apology.
What for?
For trying to stop you from getting the surgery. I've thought about it, and you are right. It's your body, and you can do what you want with it.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, Marcia. I don't like fighting with you all the time.
Well, we're not going to fight anymore. In fact, I've even done some research, and I found the best doctor to perform your surgery.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, darling.
And that's not all. I've set up an appointment with him, and I'm going to come with you for it.
Oh, darling, you've made me so happy.
My mom came over and gave me a hug.
I've missed spending time with you. I'm happy you're going to come with me.
When the morning of my mom's appointment arrived, we set off in her car for the short drive into town. His office is on the corner opposite the post office.
Okay, we can park right outside then.
As we pulled up, I saw that the company had put up a golden sign on the wall outside the building. Dr. Brown, specialist in all plastic surgeries. This is the place right here. We knocked on the door, and when it opened, a man was standing there wearing a white coat.
Hello. You must be Marcia, and this is your mom?
Yes, it is.
Well, come in then. Now, what can I do for you?
Well, I want to get a rib removed to make my waist look smaller.
Well, yes, of course I can help you with that. But have you heard about the latest discovery in the field of plastic surgery?
No, I haven't. What is it?
The doctor told my mom all about this amazing new serum that would make you look 20 years younger than what you were.
That sounds like just what I need. Where can I get it?
Oh, I can order it for you, but you will need to pay the costs up front, and it is very expensive.
Oh, don't worry about the price. I will pay anything if it makes me look younger.
Mom handed over a huge bunch of dollar bills, and the doctor told her to come back the same day the following week to have the treatment. When we left his office, Mom was so happy.
I can't believe you have done this for me, Marcia. I can't wait for next week to get the treatment.
You're welcome, Mom. I just want you to be happy. The following week when my mom went for the treatment, she was so excited.
How long will it take for me to see the results of the serum?
Oh, it shouldn't take long. You'll probably wake up in the morning and not even recognize yourself in the mirror.
Wow, that's quick. I can't wait to see the results.
But what my mom saw when she looked in the mirror the next morning didn't make her happy at all. The sound of my mom screaming woke me up from a deep sleep.
Ah! What's happened to my face?
I jumped out of bed and ran towards the bathroom. What I saw when I got there made me gasp with shock. Mom, what happened? You look terrible.
It must have been that serum. Oh my God, I'm going to kill that doctor.
My mom's face and body was one big red rash, and she had huge hives breaking out everywhere.
I can't go out there looking like this. What will people think of me?
Maybe it'll calm down in a little while. Don't panic. I'm sure it's going to be fine. But it wasn't fine, and it didn't calm down. If anything, it started getting worse.
I'm swelling up now. Right, that's it. I'm going straight to the doctor's office, and I'm gonna make him do something about it.
Okay, Mom, I'll come with you.
Thank you, Marcia. You're such a good girl.
Mom and I drove straight to the doctor's office. But you wouldn't believe what we found when we got there. The whole place was empty. The sign had been taken off the building, and the doctor was nowhere to be seen. My mom gave a sigh of despair.
Oh, Marcia, I've got a feeling we've been scammed.
I think you might be right, Mom.
I can't believe I fell for it. I mean, sure, I've heard all the horror stories of bad plastic surgeons, but I never thought it would happen to me.
It's not your fault, Mom. He seems so genuine.
Well, I've learned my lesson. As far as I'm concerned, all plastic surgeons are scammers. I'm not going to do anything else to my face or body.
I think you've made the right decision, Mom. You don't want something like this happening to you again. I was so happy. Finally, my mom had come to her senses. She wasn't going to have any more crazy procedures done to herself. And I bet you're wondering what caused my mom's face and body to react so badly to the serum. Well, the serum was actually harmless. All it was some coconut oil. The reason she had all the rashes and hives was because I had secretly been sprinkling shellfish and seafood into all of her food when she wasn't looking. You see, my mom has a severe allergy to all shellfish. I knew that if I gave her enough of it in the days leading up to her appointment, she would be sure to break out in a rash. I'm so happy my plan worked. At least now, I won't have to be embarrassed by anything else my mom might do to herself.
So you probably have a dad who scolds you when you do something wrong or gives you long lectures about things that don't really matter. Maybe he has some boring, lame job and does nothing at home but watch television and drink beer. Sometimes he tells pretty awful dad jokes, but that's as bad as it gets. You think you're pretty unlucky, right? Well, wait until you hear about my dad. Before I continue my story, make sure you like and subscribe as quickly as possible. Then make one wish and it will come true by next Friday. Hit that notification bell just to be extra sure your wish comes true. Now make sure you stay with me because this story gets worse and worse. I'm the only child of a woman named Janet and a man named Felix. When I was 10 years old, they made me sit down on the living room couch and had the talk with me. No, not the birds and the bees talk. It went like this. Brian, I'm no longer in love with your father. We have decided to go our separate ways. Because you are a boy, we decided that you would live with your father. I am moving to Australia, but I will make an effort to see you on birthdays, holidays, and other special days, my mom said. In other words, we are getting a divorce. It's when married people are no longer legally obligated to stay together, my dad added. Obligated? I asked, nearly in tears. Never mind, son. Mom is moving out tomorrow, he replied. I cried all night because I couldn't imagine a life without my mom and dad together. I always thought they'd get old together and I'd bring their awesome grandchildren to play with them. 5 years later, and here I was with my boring corporate lawyer dad, who still behaved like a normal dad. My life was pretty average. At high school, I wasn't super popular, but I wasn't a dork either. I had some cool friends and we did the usual cool teenage things together. I was dating a cute girl named Gina, but I had the hugest crush ever on Hillary. She was 19 years old and had already left high school, but I stalked her on social media to find out what she was doing all the time. I even had pictures of her hidden on my phone so Gina wouldn't find them. I don't know how I became so obsessed with Hillary. I just fell head over heels for her the first time I saw her. Anyway, on a completely average day after school, I got home and found my dad going through my closet. What are you doing, Dad? Did you lose something? I asked. My clothes aren't hip. I need something cool to wear. But you don't even have anything. Hey, let's go to the mall. We'll buy some stuff and have dinner there, he said. I didn't really understand what was going on at this point, but I decided to play along. We went to the mall and my dad looked around at all the teenage boys. I want what they're wearing. Where do we buy these clothes? He asked. Dad, are you okay? I asked while taking him to a clothing store anyway. He tried on a few trendy outfits for people 30 years younger than him. Every time he tried on something new, he'd come out of the changing room and ask me what I thought. My answer was the same every time. Dad, it's not for a person your age. But he didn't care. He bought at least 30 new outfits and got me a few new things too. Then we went to eat pizza and went home. At school the next day, I decided to ask my friends about it. We were sitting under a tree outside, skipping chemistry class because, well, chemistry sucked. Have your dads ever done anything weird? I asked. My dad is weird, period. He puts hot sauce on his pancakes. I need more context, Brian, Kenny said. Well, yesterday he was going through my closet and then, before I could finish, my dad pulled up next to us on a motorbike. A whole bike. Are you guys skipping class? He asked. Yeah, I replied. Way cool, dude, he said, and I was shocked. The dad I knew before would scold me and I'd be grounded for at least a month. Then, in another exciting twist of events, he invited my friends over to play video games that afternoon. He said he just bought the latest video game console and hundreds of new games. Then, he sped off on his new bike and I didn't see him again until I got home. My friends came over later, but my dad had stepped out for a while. I took them to the living room where there was a brand new PlayStation and loads of games. This is what I was trying to tell you all earlier, guys. Before, my dad wouldn't hear a thing about video games. I don't even know how to operate this thing. And now this? The bike? And did you see what he was wearing? I said to my friends. Well, I'd just go with the flow if I were you. You're getting to benefit from this midlife crisis or whatever it is, Kenny said, and the other guys laughed. Suddenly, my dad barged into the room wearing a multicolored hoodie, huge gold chain, and the latest Jordans. I was so embarrassed. If he wore this to his office, he'd lose all his clients. He played games with my friends all night. I tried to play too, but because I was a novice, I kept losing everything. I really wondered how my dad was so good at this. Eventually, my friends thought he was the coolest guy in the universe. I got up to get a snack, and when I got back to the living room, they were teaching him how to use TikTok. This was a total disaster because the next day, he set up a TikTok account and followed all the kids at my school. He started posting videos of himself dancing and doing anything else that was trending on the app. That week was rough. Everyone started referring to me as the kid with the weird dad. About a month passed, and my dad continued to gain fame on TikTok. He also kept inviting my friends over to play video games. I entertained it at first, but eventually I began locking myself in my room while they were over. Or sometimes I'd go hang out with my girlfriend Gina. She didn't understand why I was upset though. Anyway, one Friday I was grateful that I had made it to the end of the week without my dad doing anything extremely stupid. I rushed home because I planned to go watch a movie with Gina that night. When I got home, my friends were already there chilling out with my dad. I went to the shower and changed, and when I got back downstairs, my friends had left. "Where are you off to?" my dad asked. "I'm going to watch a movie with Gina." "Oh, cool. I've got a date too. I'll drop you off at Gina's house." He got ready and was actually dressed like a normal dad this time, except he had overdone it a bit. He was wearing a fancy suit. "You're going somewhere really expensive, huh, Dad? She must be a really special lady," I said. "She definitely is. I met her on Tinder. I heard that this is how young people find true love nowadays," he said. Dad? What? Never mind. I decided not to explain what Tinder was actually used for. He dropped me off at Gina's house, and I prayed that whatever woman he was meeting would help him come back to his senses. She didn't, apparently, whoever she was, because the next week, my dad invited all his TikTok friends to a house party he was hosting that weekend. That included almost everyone at my high school. "Brian, your dad is so cool. You must be so happy to have a dad who's throwing parties," random people would tell me as I walked through the hallway. Almost everyone said they would come. People even tried to become my friend, so I'd introduce them to my dad. "Go with the flow, man. Just go with the flow," Kenny kept telling me. "Oh, and look at this hot pic Hillary uploaded on IG," he continued while pushing his phone in front of my face. I guess he just wanted to take my mind off things. I'd been so stressed lately, I hadn't been keeping up with what my forever love was doing. The hottest girl in the universe and my future wife. In her latest picture, she was dressed in an elegant dress and showing off a new diamond bracelet. The caption was, "My new bae loves me so much, he's the best." "Looks like she's taken now, but whatever, you already have Gina," Kenny laughed. "Her new bae and Gina are temporary. We will be together someday," I said seriously. "Dude, you're 15. She's 19 and way too old for you. Besides, where are you going to get money for diamond bracelets anyway? She seems a little bit too high maintenance," he said. I knew he was just trying to cheer me up, but I rolled my eyes and walked away. That night, I tried to talk my dad out of hosting the party, but he wouldn't listen. "It's gonna be lit, on fleek, so stop tripping my G," he replied. "Dad, don't use those words. You can't even use them properly," I whined. "Like, OMG, I'm weak. I can't with you, Brian. Anyway, I'm not canceling my party. Plus, my new girlfriend is gonna be there," he said. "She's already your girlfriend? Your first date was last week." I was shocked. "I guess I got game," he winked and went upstairs. So the party happened, and no matter how I felt, there were so many people I couldn't even find Kenny and the other guys. People were drinking alcohol too, and I found it weird that my dad didn't mind at all. He was standing on a table dancing while a crowd cheered around him. I just took a few snacks and went back up to my room. Gina was there, so that made things a bit better. We were watching some silly videos on YouTube when I heard a knock on my door. It was Kenny. "Have you seen your dad? We're out of snacks. Oh, and Hillary's here. I wonder how she found out about this party," he said. My eyes lit up so brightly that Gina could probably tell how I felt. "Who's Hillary?" she said angrily. Nobody," I said while getting up quickly and rushing out of my room with Kenny. I really didn't care about finding my dad, but Hillary, the hottest girl in the universe, in my house, I was ready to faint. I searched up and down, but I didn't find any of them. "Okay, Kenny, the only room I haven't checked is my dad's study. He probably got a work call, so he's dealing with that," I said. We walked to the study and I opened the door without knocking. My mouth and heart dropped to the floor. There was my dad making out with Hillary on his desk. "Dad!" I screamed. "How could you do this to me? She's the love of my life." "Is that your girlfriend? You're the one who bought her that diamond bracelet? You make me sick." "Son, calm down," he said. I turned around to leave, but Gina was standing right behind me with tears in her eyes. "I thought I was the love of your life," she said and ran away. I turned to Kenny. "How exactly do I go with the flow in this situation?" "You can all go to hell," I screamed and went back up to my room. I stayed there for the day and refused to come out. I tried apologizing to Gina, but she wasn't hearing any of it. I eventually left my room later because I was starving. When I got to the kitchen, my dad was in there with Hillary, who was wearing a very flattering nightgown. "Did you sleep here? What's going on?" I asked. "Well, yes, she's moving in, and I'd appreciate it if you stopped speaking about her like she wasn't right in front of you. It's disrespectful," my dad replied. "You're despicable, Dad," I answered and left the room. At school the next week, Kenny tried to convince me to look on the bright side. "You'll be able to see her every single day. You won't need to stalk her on social media anymore because she'll be in your house," he said. I guess that's one way of looking at it, but she's with my dad. That's gross as hell. He gets to do all the things I should be doing, and what's he gonna do next? Ask me to call her mom? This really sucks. And now Gina won't talk to me at all, I sighed. "Hey Brian, I can't wait for the next party at your house. This Saturday, right?" A random stranger interrupted our conversation. "My dad's planning more parties?" I asked, puzzled. "Go with the flow," Kenny laughed. I wanted to punch him this time. After 2 more parties, I really couldn't take it anymore. I called my mom and begged her to send me a plane ticket so I could live with her. She sounded unsure and felt like my dad would never agree to it. So I had no choice. I stole my dad's credit card and bought it myself. I left on a Saturday when he was too busy with my friends to notice. He didn't see me walk down the stairs with my suitcase, and he didn't see me get into the taxi that took me to the airport. The flight to Australia took forever, but when I got there, I felt relieved. I gave my mom's address to a taxi driver, and he drove me straight to her house. She was thrilled to see me, and I was just thankful that she behaved like an adult. Living with my mom has been a different experience. Her new husband is about 15 years older than she is, but after my experience with my dad, I'm happy to be living with old people now. My dad only noticed I was gone the afternoon after the party. He freaked out for a while, but my mom forced me to call him and let him know I was safe. I would have let him suffer a little longer though.